I'm making this video to remember a man who deserves to be remembered and who led an interesting, fascinating life, really. And I didn't see anything else out there. And so I felt like I had to put out this video so that there's at least something out there that can point people to him. His name is Imru Zelleke. And here's why you should remember him. When he was born in 1923, Empress Zewditu was on the throne of Ethiopia. When he died in 2022, Ethiopia had its first democratically elected prime minister. So his life spanned many changes in Ethiopia's modern history, and his perspective is all the more fascinating because of it. I also wonder if the traumatic experience he had as a child in the concentration camp unwittingly prepared him for diplomatic service later in life. I want to read a couple of excerpts from a friend of mine, Jeff, who wrote up an obituary about him on his Substack page, and as well as a couple quotes from Imru's memoirs. But this is from Jeff. As a boy, Imru stood on the second floor of his family home in 1937 and watched as Italian fascists went from hut to hut, setting them on fire and burning the occupants alive, beating people to death as they tried to flee. He was our last witness to the Graziani massacre. The very next day, he was taken with his mother and sisters to the Denane concentration camp in what was then known as Italian Somaliland. There were about 6,500 prisoners at Denane, and about half of them died from disease, starvation, and neglect. There's no marker today for Denane, no plaque to let others know of what happened there. I can tell you that for years, I could hardly find any outside confirmation that it ever existed at all until I purchased on eBay 2 photographs. They were postcards captioned in Italian and German. Think about that. The Europeans put out a postcard for a concentration camp. Now, Imru watched as power struggles in the 1960s and 70s eventually would bring down the monarchy in Ethiopia, a 3,000-year-old institution, to an end, with a military coup that would install the Derg, which was a communist junta government. And when the Derg took over, Imru decided that he had to flee the country. And as he says in his memoirs, I hadn't been arrested yet, but I was sure that I would be detained sooner or later. So I decided to leave the country. There's no point in going to jail and to an unknown fate. I sold some of my belongings and moved to the Gion Hotel. The massacre meant that the time to depart had arrived. It was during a long and sleepless night in a jail in Kenya that I promised myself to write these memoirs. And it's a good thing that he did, because we will continue to benefit from those reflections. And I hope that his book will be widely read even in years to come. Post-Derg life for Imru took him into business, but he always kept an eye on what was going on in Ethiopia and continued to observe events from afar. And, like a wise grandfather, Imru is a treasure to Ethiopia. And I hope that his voice is going to become even more influential after his death. And again, in his memoirs, he wrote, "We must build our new Ethiopia on solid bases, on our common history and common heritage," he wrote in A Journey, published in 2016. "We are a civilized people of the first order. Our tradition, cultures, and values are universal. Our people are talented, and our land fertile and rich. Let's make the Ethiopia Renaissance with a national spirit and rejuvenating outlook, instead of indulging in endless, willy-nilly political deals that promise an uncertain future." In 2005, when more than 2 million people demonstrated openly in Addis Ababa, and later when 26 million voted peacefully without a single incident, they voted as Ethiopians and nothing else. We should stand with them and work unremittingly to liberate them from the nefarious TPLF dictatorship. the nation lost its soul because of the Derg regime. And I think ever since then, it's been looking for a vision that can guide it out of its traumatic past and towards a better future. And Imru, I think, provides a very good perspective and a lot of good wisdom and advice, because he was someone who was optimistic, but without the, or an idealist, but without the utopianism, but also realistic without the cynicism. And he saw the best and worst in human nature, and still remained optimistic about the outlook, at least what could be. And I think that going forward, I think a new generation that's further removed from that era of the Derg is going to need that to reconnect with Ethiopia's past and see that legacy and that heritage as an asset to build on. So we remember Imru Zelleke, who passed away on Friday of October 21st, 2022. May you rest in peace.